Jai Hind everyone. I am Dr. Akash Kumar from the Department of Applied Science and Humanities at Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, Ghaziabad, and would like to have a lecture on the topic Fundamental Duties of Citizens of India under the subject of Constitution of India, Law and Engineering. Subject code is KNC 501. The topic is, as you know, the fundamental duties of citizens of India. The importance of the topic stresses on the aspect that every citizens of this nation has to abide and follow some kind of duties on its own, so that the atmosphere within the system is in conformity with the laid down principles of humanities, as well as the major aim of the society being the achievement of a welfare state, or we can say the creation of a welfare state. Now, when we talk about the fundamental duties, now fundamental duties basically are given in the Constitution of India, and our constitutions deals as the fundamental duties of citizens were added to the Constitution by 42nd Amendment in 1976 upon the recommendation of the Swan Singh Committee that was constituted by the government earlier that year. This committee was under the chairmanship of Sardar Swan Singh, India's longest serving Union Cabinet Minister that time. Originally, the fundamental duties of India was not a part of the Indian Constitution, and in fact, they were added by 42nd and 86th Amendment, Constitutional Amendment Acts. Now, important aspect is that we have one of the largest written constitutions in the world, and these duty helps the individual citizens to understand the importance of different aspects connected with the assurance of the social perspective, looking into the development avenues which are available within the society, within the nation, so that the people are able to follow these duties in conformity with the laid down atmosphere, or we can say the in building up the environment, so that the society is created which looks into the every aspects connected with the people and creating a overall favorable conditions for the growth and development of the people and society. The fundamental duties were incorporated in Article 51A, the Part 4A, which has been inserted by 42nd Amendment Act 1976. Under this article, presently we have 11 fundamental duties in our constitution. How many duties we have? We have 11 fundamental duties in our constitution, which there are statutory, which come under the statutory duties and are also non-enforceable by law. Now, important aspect we will be discussing further in our topic, why they are said to be the non-enforceable by law. What it means? It basically means if anybody is not following these duties, as the people may think, that nobody can approach to the court of law for getting the person, for forcing the person to follow these duties. The idea behind the incorporation of the fundamental rights was to emphasize the obligation of the citizens in exchange of comprehensive fundamental rights enjoyed by them. The fundamental duties are taken from Constitution of Russia. We must understand this. The fundamental duties, how and why and to what extent they are defined as the moral obligations of all the citizens in order to help promote a spirit of patriotism and to uphold the unity of India. Now, important point here to understand is the moral obligation or moral duty of the individual citizens of this nation. that we are moving on a roadside, we are not creating any kind of mismanagement as far as the traffic is concerned. We are not creating any problem for the other persons who are moving along with us in a traffic or on a road. So this becomes a point to be understood for us, to understand for us, that what are the moral obligations of all citizens. And it is not important, it is not very much important that they are to be forced to everybody, but to an extent it is assumed and it is understood that a person, a educated person, will definitely be able to follow these types of duties, these duties, so that the society is framed in accordance with the principles of human development and human growth, as in conformity with the values. What is the need and importance of the fundamental duties? It is easy to assume that the constitutional duties are similar to the fundamental duties of the Indian citizen. Our constitution provides a list of fundamental rights and duties to the citizens and lays down the state's duties toward ensuring that these rights are protected and provided equally to everyone. The important point here to be understood is that everybody to some extent is aware of what his or her duties are as far as the social perspective is concerned. But these duties also highlight the point that the state is also required to follow its duties in order to ensure that all the rights of the people are well protected, so that the people are well versed, are the well-being of the people in increases from time to time, and in the line or in the process of ensuring the overall development of its people. These duties were drafted on the lines of moral, ethical and cultural code of conduct, which is to be followed by the people to uphold and protect their sovereignty, unity and integrity of our country. Now, most important point here is the sovereignty, unity, integrity of our country. Now, what is sovereignty? The sovereignty is that we as a free nation will be looking after our own nation by way of making our own policies, and no other nation has the right to suppress us or to follow his or their policies for our own benefit or for their benefit, or they cannot impose, they cannot force us to follow their policies so that they get benefited and we are not able to derive any kind of benefit from them. Unity, as we all know that we as a nation, India is a diverse country as far as the cultural, lingual or other aspects are concerned. So, we have to ensure that we are able to define to the greater extent possible the unity in all these spheres, whether cultural, whether education, whether lingual, whether the other social aspects are concerned, so that the country is able to depict to have a united, to represent itself as a united nation, as a united one of the nation in the world. The integrity of a country, integrity basically means the brotherhood among all the members belonging to different walks of life and coming from different walks of life, we can say. It also helps the government in maintaining proper governance and enabling the proper functioning of a democratic society. Now, the point here is, what do you mean by a democratic society? The most important aspect is that we as a nation, being one of the greatest democracy of the world, the largest democracy of the world, are to ensure the participation of every individual, every member of the society, belonging to different castes, different creeds, coming from different walks of life through the process of voting. Now, when we talk about the voting, that means the voting rights as ensured by the Constitution to the individuals will definitely help in enhancing the participation of the individual in the policy, in the government, or we can say in the democratic setup of the nation. The important aspect here I would also like to highlight that a democratic society always ensures the larger participation of the people. Now, the more the people participate, the better the government will be. More the people participate, the better the society will become. More the people participate, the better the policy framework will be. They will be able to force the government. They will be able to make the government to understand that to what extent, what kind of policy is required to be made for the people, so that the people are able to achieve the well-being. In case there is a violation of fundamental duties, Article 51A of the Constitution categorizes it as a contempt of the Constitution, which is punishable under the Prevention of Insults to the National Honor Act 1971. Now, this is an important one. This is an important aspect. We should try to understand, build up an understanding about it. In case there is a violation of fundamental duties. Now, fundamental duties are violated by either by the government or by the people or the member or other member of the society. The Article 51A of the Constitution categorizes it as a contempt of, that is, not following the Constitution, the contempt of Constitution, which is punishable under the Prevention of Insult of National Honor Act 1971, which prohibits the discrimination of or insult to the nationals or the country's national symbols, including the national flag, national emblem, national anthem, the Constitution, the map of India, including contempt of Indian Constitution. So, these are the various different aspects which the National Honor Act focuses when we take into account the disrespect being done by any of the member from the society. Okay? The government can take action, the state can take action against that person or the community. Now, what are the fundamental duties? Now, we come into the major part of the lecture today. The first fundamental duty, there are total 11 fundamental duties. We will be looking into going through the analysis of each of these one by one. The first one is to abide by the Constitution and respect its idols, institutions, the national flag and the national anthem. Now, it is very much important, because unless and until we respect our nation, we respect our identity, national identities, we will not be a better person. From this point, I want to just clarify that if we respect our nation, the nation will also respect us. So, in that background, it is the duty of every citizen to respect the idols, which include liberty, justice, equality, fraternity and institutions, namely the executive, the legislature and finally the judiciary. Hence, all of us are supposed to maintain the dignity of the Constitution by not indulging in any activities which violate them in letter and spirit. That means, we by the Constitution have been provided that our first duty is to safeguard, to look into, the dignity of our constitution and basically maintaining the dignity of our constitution. And the constitution also says that we should not be indulging in any of the activity which may violate our nation or the national flag or national anthem or the important various national identities. It also states that if a citizen by any overt or covert act shows disrespect to the constitution, the national anthem or the national flag, it will spell doom to all our rights and very existence as the citizens of serving nation. That means if by any of the act anybody disrespect constitution, the national anthem or the national flag, the state may take action against it, but it depends upon the state and its institution. So, this is the first fundamental duty, and which is to abide by the constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and the national anthem. Second important duty is to cherish and follow the noble ideas which inspired our national struggle for freedom. Now, we all know India achieved its freedom very courageously and with the help of our brave soldiers and other freedom leaders. The citizens of India must cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired the national struggle for freedom. These ideals were those of building a just society and a united nation with freedom, equality, non-violence, brotherhood and world peace. Now, important thing here to be understood is that as our freedom fighters have fought for the freedom of our nation, in the same way it is our duty to preserve, to cherish these noble ideas and get ourselves inspired that we have the responsibility to support and to preserve these freedom fighters, the thought of these freedom fighters, and ensure that nation is able to prevail in for making a better future. If the citizens of India remain conscious of and committed to these ideals, we will be able to raise above the various separatist tendencies, raising their ugly heads now and then, here and there. Now, important point here is that in India, it's always the politics plays its important role in defining the political atmosphere. So, it is important that we as the next generation, we as the youth of the nation have to look into, have to understand, build up an understanding so that we may be able to pave a better way for building up a better future, for building and shaping a better tomorrow, so that our next coming generations are able to enjoy the benefits of growth and are able to live the dream which our freedom fighters had lived for us, to ensure that we may get a better environment, a better society, free of the various types of the other problems. The third fundamental duty here is to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. It is one of the preeminent national obligations of all the citizens of India. As India, we all know, is a vast and diverse nation with different caste, religion, sex and linguistic people. If freedom and unity of the country are jeopardized, then United Nation is not possible. United Nation here means the united country or united India is not be easily possible. Hence, in a way, sovereignty lies with the people. Why it is said, why it is being said here, why? Importance is, we as the member of our nation, we as the citizen of our nation are entrusted with the responsibility, as we abide by the constitution, as we have gone through the preamble, and we give ourselves to this constitution. Therefore, it becomes our responsibility, and nobody is there and nobody should make us know that what are our responsibility. It is we ourselves must understand that what type of responsibility we have to carry on, looking into the need of the society, looking into framing such a culture which may help in sustainable development of the country as far as possible, by making proper use of the resources, and by way of creating various institutional framework, by way of working to the utmost higher level possible for the society, for the development of the country, for the development of our people, and for the development of brothers and sisters. It may be recalled that these were first mentioned in preamble and also under the Article 19, subsection 2 of the fundamental rights. Reasonable restrictions are permitted on freedom of speech and expression in interest of the sovereignty and integrity of India. Now, important point here is to be understood. What is the important point? We have been given fundamental rights. We can speak. We have the freedom of speech. We have to freedom of religion. But it does not mean that we can do any mishappening in the society. It does not mean that we are free to create unrest environment in the society, or create social imbalances or social problems in the society. It ultimately, the constitution has given these fundamental rights with some kind of reasonable restrictions, to the extent that we can speak, but we can speak in a defined limit, in a defined limitations of selected words, so that we may not be, we are not able to hurt, we cannot hurt any other member of the society belonging to different religion, belonging to different caste. It is we who have to decide what kind of society needs to be framed from time to time. To defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so. Now, important point here is, we as the youth of this nation are to follow the duties. What kind of duty? The importance is duty of defending our motherland, duties to defend our country against external enemies. Now, external enemies, when the foreign country or foreign nation aggresses or attacks on our nation, and during the need of the hour, during the need of that time, we must always be ready to defend our nation, to safeguard our nation, to safeguard our country, our motherland. All the citizens are bound to be conscious of any such element entering India. That means we should all be having an open mind always. Any infiltrator moving inside India through borders, who have the understanding, or who is with a view that I will create destruction in this country, we have to be safeguarded. We have to look into that this may not be able to happen. All, when in the need, they should be ready to take up arms to defend themselves. It is addressed to all the citizens other than those belonging to Army, Navy and Air Force. Protection of the nation and its citizens from external aggression and internal aggression is a part of national defense. Then only the sovereignty and integrity of the nation can be protected. Every citizen is bound to defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so in times of emergency. Now, there are various examples as we see that any kind of natural calamity takes place in our country. So, people start helping the people in India. They support the people by giving them various kinds of support in the form of various goods, and they also contribute by way of supporting them, giving some kind of help, whether monetary or non-monetary. So, therefore, it becomes an important aspect to understand to defend our nation during the need of the hour. Now, fundamental duties, the point number 5 is to promote harmony and a spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic and regional or sectional diversities, to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. What it means? It means that we are, as the citizen of the nation, it is our duty to safeguard the women in the society, to safeguard the other members of the society, irrespective of the age, irrespective of their background. Why? Because important aspect is, if we are safeguarding, if we are helping the members of the society, whether male or female, it will always lead to benefit our society. Given the vast diversities among people, the presence of one flag and single citizenship strengthen the spirit of brotherhood among the citizens. It states that people should raise about the narrow cultural differences and strive towards excellence in all spheres of collective activity. Now, what it means? The important point here that requires some kind of understanding is that being a diversified nation, being the citizen belonging to a diversified culture, the important aspect is that we must move in unity. We must help the society to build up a unified nation, a united culture. This will always strengthen the spirit of the nation. This will always pave the way for the future development of the nation in conformity with the principles of economic growth, economic development, and as far as the individual and social perspective are concerned. It states that people should rise above the narrow culture differences and always strive towards the excellence in all spheres of collective activities. Ultimately, what it means? It means that what are the things, what are the activities beneficial for the society must be looked into, and the people collectively must ensure that they are able to do justice with the resources, the natural resources, the national capital of the natural capital of the nation. Capital, here I do not mean as a place, but human capital, the social capital, the other educational capital, which we collectively submit as known as the human capital. So, this becomes an important aspect to understand. To value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. Now, important aspect which is requires to be another understanding to be built up, that it is a duty not to create any kind of destruction and contribute towards the preservation of our noblest culture, our heritage. Why? The simple point here is, we as a nation are unique. Why we are unique? We are unique in the sense that most of the religions of the world are in India. I have came to India, have been due to the Indian culture. What it says, our culture heritage is one of the noblest and the richest and it is also part of the heritage of the earth. Hence, it is our duty to protect what we have inherited from the past, preserve it, and pass on to the future generations. The important point here, which needs some kind of basic understanding, we have rich past. It is our responsibility to preserve it, to maintain it, and to pass on the baton to our future generation, who will be taking charge and control of the affairs in the future. India is also one of the most ancient civilizations of the world. Our contributions towards art, science, literature is well known to the world. Also, this land is the birthplace of Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism. Therefore, it becomes our responsibility to look into the need of preserving our cultural background or cultural heritage. It is very important to do so because India has a great history of rulers and is bestowed with different art and architecture, which shows past glory of the country. Now, when we talk about the past glory of a country, architectural, the various monuments, we have the responsibility whenever we visit such such monuments, place of worship, we have the inherent responsibility of preserving them, not destroying them, not creating any kind of nonsense in those places, because we have a glorified past and is required to be preserved. Point number 7 here is to protect and improve the natural environment, including forest, lake, rivers, wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. Now, environment is required to be preserved because they play a very important role in diversification. They play a very important role in environmental development. These natural reserves are the most valued assets of our country, and hence it is the duty of every citizen to protect it. Raising pollution, large scale degradation of forest is causing immense harm to all the human lives on earth. Increasing natural calamity is a proof to this harm which has been done by the people. It is also reinforced in our constitutional provision under Article 48A, which states for the protection and improvement of environment and safeguarding of forest and wildlife. This article is one of the directive principles which directs the states to make effort for banning animal slaughtering of cow and calf and other milch and draught cattle. It further states to organize agriculture and animal husbandry on modern scientific line. Now, important point here is that this directive principle, this article is one of the directive principles which direct the state to make such policies which will be helping to reduce or banning the animal slaughtering of the milch animals and other cattle and cows and calf. But it is important so that the people are able to get the good nutritional food from time to time. To develop the scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform, the term scientific temper is broadly defined as a modest, open-minded temper, a temper ever ready to welcome the new light, new knowledge, new experiment, even when their results are unfavorable, to preconceived opinions and long cherished theories. It is in fact a way of life which uses scientific methods including questionings, observing physical reality, testing, hypothesizing, analyzing, and communicating. The important point here is that the development, the nation's development will always be able to be achieved when innovations are there done, the inventions are done at a higher level, when the scientific caliber of the youth increases by way of a better institutional framework by the government, by better policy being formed by the government, better policy being framed by the government, their, their implementation being done by the government, and the support which the people require from the institutions. Even when their results are unfavorable, it is in fact a way of life which uses scientific method, including questioning, observing physical reality, testing hypotheses, and analyzing and communicating. It is a known fact that it is necessary to learn from the experiences and the development around the world for our own development. It is a duty of every citizen to protect and promote scientific temper and a spirit of inquiry to keep pace with the fast changing world. Otherwise, we will not be able to be moving, being a part as a globalized world. So, therefore, it becomes an important aspect for everybody. To safeguard public property and to abjure or reject violence. It is unfortunate that in a country which preaches non-violence to the rest of the world, we ourselves see from time to time incidents of senseless violence and destruction of public property. Among all the fundamental duties, this one holds a great significance in the current scenario when strike, protect have become a common phenomena. Whenever there is a strike or band or rally, mob develops mentality to harm public properties like buses, buildings, and to loot them. The citizens who are protectors become mute spectators. To strive towards the excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavour and achievement. As a responsible citizen, whatever work we take up should be directed towards achieving the goal of excellence, so that our country constantly raises to higher levels of endeavour and achievement. This cause has potential to not only regenerate and reconstruct the country, but also to raise it to the highest possible level of excellence. Who is a parent or guardian to provide opportunities for education to his children, or as the case may be, ward between the age of 6 and 14 years? It was the recommendation of National Commission to review the working of Constitution to make education a fundamental right of all the citizens up to age of 14. 86th Constitutional Amendment Act 2002, however, provided for free and compulsory education as a legal enforceable fundamental right for all children between 6 to 14 years of age. The duties are non-enforceable. Which duties we are talking about? The fundamental duties, and why? There is a provision in the Constitution for direct enforcement of any of these duties, nor for any sanction to prevent their violation. But it may be expected that in determining the constitutionality of any law, if the court finds that it seeks to give effect to any of these duty, it may consider such law as to be reasonable in relation to Article 14 or 19, and thus save such law for unconstitutionality. It would also serve a warning to reckless citizens against anti-social activities such as burning the Constitution, destroying the public property and like. Supreme Court has held that since the duties are obligatory for a citizen, it would follow that the state should also strive to achieve the same goal. The court may therefore issue suitable directions in these matters in appropriate cases. The Supreme Court, in order to give effect to fundamental duties as enshrined under Article 51A, subsection G, read with Article 21, 47, 48b, adopted the principle of sustainable development as a balancing concept and further held the precautionary principle, that is safeguarding the interest of the people and the society. Polluters pay principle, that means who destroyed the public property, who destroyed the public places are required to pay back to the government. They are required to be penalized, are acceptable as a part of law for the country and should be implemented by the court of law. In fact, the reason for not making these duties enforceable is because the majority of the population, being illiterate in India, may be unaware of their constitutional obligation. Therefore, in such a scenario, if the fundamental duties are enforced, it would have resulted in causing chaos and harassment among the people. If the state is unable to provide a proper climate that elaborates on the fundamental duties, then to follow these duties properly will pose a real problem. These duties are not legally enforceable, which means that if a citizen violates any of them, no legal action can take place against him or her. Now, let's go for some importance. The fundamental duties are constant reminder to the citizens to build a free, healthy and responsible society, and they are expected to not act as a recklessly and not indulge in anti-social activity. For the government of a democratic country like India, it is imperative that all fundamental duties are followed by the citizens while respecting the integrity, promotion of the cultural harmony in the country. The fundamental duties of an Indian citizen provides education to children, especially to the children below 14 years of age, safeguard the human rights, and is a major step towards the abolition of social injustice that is prevalent in the society even today. Environmental pollution has become a great cause of concern, not only for Indians, but for the human society or humanity around the globe. Unless we all take the pledge to keep our environment free from pollutants, these remains the threat of undesirable consequences. The Supreme Court, in order to give effect to fundamental duties as enshrined under Article 51A, point G, read with Article 21, 47, 48B, adopted the principle of sustainable development as we have talked previously. Thus, as per the definition of the fundamental duties, it is the responsibility of the citizen to build a free and healthy society where all citizens are treated equally. Now, difference between the fundamental duties and fundamental rights. The fundamental rights can be defined as a privileges granted to each individual of the country to enjoy the fundamental duties, are whereas the moral responsibility which one needs to carry out in order to respect the rights of another individual and perform social obligation. Fundamental rights, fundamental duties are interrelated and one can't exist without the other. The following are the differences. The fundamental rights are the freedom granted by the constitution which can't be taken away from the citizen, whereas duties are legal responsibilities bestowed upon the citizens to perform, but no system can force them to perform and keep performing. It is up to the understanding of the individual whether to opt for performing these duties or not. Fundamental rights are considered to be normative rules of liberty and freedom for every citizen in order to achieve a harmonious and free lifestyle. The fundamental duties are moral responsibility of all citizens that needs to be performed. The point here to be understood is needs to be performed by them in order to achieve prosperity and uphold the unity of the nation. Now, this is most important to be understood, that agar if we all keep on striving better for a better future, then we have to unanimously, collectively work and think in that perspective, that we as a citizen of the nation have some responsibility to carry forward for the next generation to have a better tomorrow. Fundamental rights are universally applicable, available to all citizens regardless of their race, caste, religion, sex or place of birth, and are justiciable in nature. That is, they can be taken to the court of law if some rights are not being provided. Whereas the fundamental duties are non-justifiable and hence can't be taken to the court of law. These are the differences. Hence, fundamental duties is the responsibility of the citizens. Is it true or not? How? Let us have a view on this. It is important to understand that a common thread runs through part 3, 4 and 4A of the Constitution of India. One part enumerates the fundamental rights, the second declares the fundamental principle of the governance, and the third lays down the fundamental duties to the citizen. While interpreting any of these provisions, it shall always be advisable to examine the scope and impact of such interpretation on all these constitutional aspects emerging from these parts. Fundamental duties as defined, the Article 51A are not made enforceable by a writ of the court just as fundamental rights are, but it cannot be lost sight of that duties in part 4A, Article 51A as prefaced by the same word fundamental, which are prefixed by the founding fathers of the Constitution to write in part 3. Every citizen of India is fundamentally obliged to develop a scientific temper and humanism, and he is fundamentally duty bound to strive so that the nation constantly raise to higher levels of endeavour and achievement in the interest of the better future, in the interest of the coming generations. State is all the citizens placed together, and hence through Article 51A does not expressly cast any fundamental duty on the state. The fact remains that the duties of every citizen of India is a collective duty of the state also. Now, vice versa, the duty of the state also the duty of the citizen, and the duty of the citizen is also the duty of the state. It can be said that the government efforts cannot be successful unless the citizens of the country generally participate in decision-making process of the government. Even the unstated duties like voting should be effectively discharged by the citizens. Public spirited people and politicians should come forward to take the interest in local community problems. These duties are a constant reminder to us of the national goals as well as the basic norms of political order. They may inspire us to inculcate in ourselves a sense of social responsibility to build up a better future, a better tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you all. Jai Hind.